you. Well, good morning, everyone, or good morning from West Coast folks at least. My name is Annie Human, and I wanted to just thank everyone for joining us today for the first of our Ask Me Anythings of 2022. Today's AMA is actually the second of many that the Asian American ERG's Empowerment Committee is proud to present and focuses on the theme of Asian Americans in technology. The empowerment pillar of the AAERG focuses on developing and elevating Asian American employees at Experian with high impact programming, access to resources, and a supportive community. Today, we'll be showcasing Asian American professionals to highlight their talents and learn from them about their recipes for success. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Today, we have Debbie Chamkasem, John Ken, and Jimmy Cheung as our panelists and moderator for this AMA. I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Debbie to start our introductions.
Sure, sounds good. Thanks. Hi, everyone. As Annie said, my name's Debbie Chamkasem. I've actually been at Experian for over 16 years, which sounds like a really long time. But a little bit about me. I studied computer science and electrical engineering at UCLA and then went right into consulting. I also worked at a startup, did some contract work, and then ended up at Experian as a CRM developer. I eventually moved into a global role, moved into management, and then led the technical development team that implemented Salesforce.com globally for Experian. I then had the chance to move into enterprise architecture, and then currently I'm the VP of Global Technology Programs, reporting directly to our CTO, Jill Manna. And I work on strategic programs such as our tech transformation, Agile transformation, and much more. All right, over to you, John.
Great. Thanks, Debbie. Hey, everyone, John Ken. I've been at Experian just shy of 3 years here. I'm actually a boomerang, if some of you didn't know. So I was here about 6 years ago and left for various reasons. We can talk about that later.
We will.
But the good part is I'm back and I'm here to finish what I started. In terms of like my background, a little bit similar to Debbie actually. So I went to school for comp sci originally, wandered the desert through college. So can share a little bit about that either today or some other time. But I spent a lot of time in my career in actually, I think they're calling it CAS now, Commerce as a Service. So a lot of time in e-commerce and in online stores. And then also in SaaS, so marketing cloud technology. And then most recently, where I came from to Experian was IBM, where I spent a few years consulting with a worldwide team on supply chain, e-com, and marketing cloud tech. So really happy to be here.
Excellent.
And I should probably talk about what I do here. I lead the CRM team. I lead the CRM team here for D2C. So Debbie talked about Salesforce. We're all about Salesforce.
That's right. Hello, everyone. I think most of you know who I am, but for those that don't, my name is Jimmy Cheung. I'm the Senior Vice President of Technology and Engineering at Experian Consumer Services. I am also a proud co-executive sponsor, along with my partner in crime, Daisy Yee, of the Experian Asian-American ERG. I'm super excited today to moderate this panel discussion and have the opportunity to get to know John and Debbie a little bit more and learn from them, their techniques and best practices that's given them tremendous amount of success of advancing their career in technology here at Experian. I have to say, I have the pleasure of knowing both John and Debbie very well. John works at ECS, so we've been on many projects together. And Debbie and I are on the Experian softball team together. And I'll tell you, I mean, Debbie is a force to be reckoned with on the field and off the field. So if you ever get a chance, come watch us play, okay? Great, awesome. Let's get started. All right. So I'm gonna start asking both of you some personal questions, okay? And just kind of, break the ice a little bit, and then we'll get into more questions about your professional experience and career growth. Okay, all right, good guy. All right, so let's start with some personal questions. And for those that know me, you know that I love food. Okay, so we're gonna start with a question about food. So, what is your favorite food, John or Debbie? Let's hear it.
I can go first. For me, it's ramen. I love a good tonkatsu ramen, but I also have a spicy cold dipping noodle that is my ultimate favorite.
Yeah, I got two.
For me, I would have to say specifically al pastor tacos.
Really?
Um, oh
Wow.
yeah, yeah, and it's sometimes good for your health and really bad for your health depending on where you go. But if I see it on the menu, or if I see like a food truck somewhere, or see some guy selling it at the corner of a sidewalk, I can't help myself.
Wow. Do you know any good corner market, or I guess pop-up taco places around here?
Um, the last good place, I don't even know the name. It was off of Beach Boulevard. Like I was at a mechanic shop and I was walking to go get donuts over at what's that donut place off of Beach? But there's this place on the right hand side as you're walking south on Beach Boulevard that I just found that said that there's like a lunch special on tacos. And that place blew my mind. So I'll try and find the place.
Yeah. We
I'll,
might have to start a Slack channel on taco joints because I love them. I love them. How about you, Debbie? What's your favorite ramen place?
Hiro Nori. So I don't know if you guys know that. If you're in the Costa
Mm,
Mesa office over by the airport, I love their cold dipping noodle there.
okay. Yeah, I haven't been there yet, but I'll definitely give that a try. So, okay. So, from food, let's talk about what's your favorite movie?
John, you
uh,
want to go first?
I guess this is really silly, but it's like it's blood sport.
Wow. Okay, that tells a lot about you, John. So
It's not my favorite movie, but whenever I see it come up like on TV, like it's like a thumb stopper. Like you have to stop and watch it because it's so outrageous.
yeah, that's the one with Jean-Claude Van Damme, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's one of his early ones too. Awesome. So Debbie, what about you?
I don't know if I have one specific favorite, but I do love a good romantic comedy. I usually laugh and cry multiple times. And even though they're pretty predictable, they never get old for me. So if I had to pick one, same with John, if I see it on when I'm flipping through channels that I'll always stop for is Can't Buy Me Love.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
I
That's
wanted to be
good.
Cindy Mancini.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not a big rom-com person. I'm more like sort of John's genre. I'm kind of like into that blood sport genre. But I have to say that I am looking forward to seeing the sequel to Crazy Rich Asian, though. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great, yeah, that's a great rom-com that I could that I found myself enjoying. Well, that's great. So let's talk a bit about let's hear a fun fact about yourself that nobody knows.
I can take this one. I mean, I don't know if it's a secret, but I think a fun fact for me is that I love snowboarding. I still have a group of college friends that I travel with on trips all around the world just to find good snow.
Really?
So my favorite local mountain's Mammoth, but I also love Whistler. And then we've also been to Niseko, which is a small town in Hokkaido, Japan.
Oh wow, that's. Are you one of those where they drop out of a helicopter and you just like start coming down on Mount Fiji?
I
You know?
haven't done heliboarding yet, but it's on my bucket list, and I better hurry soon before I get too old and my legs can't do it anymore.
Oh man, no man.
Yeah.
I've seen you run on the softball field. You got many years left on those things. So
I don't know, man. Falling as a grown adult is like not okay.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So what about you, John? Let's give us a.
um, I don't know. I mean, I think people kind of know this too, but I've always said like I'm a nerd in disguise. Um, so I'm like a major Trekkie. So I'm very current on Star Trek. I'm like one of those people who believe in Atlantis, and I'm like trying to find it. So
Oh
there's a
wow.
lot of there's a lot of people on YouTube who think they found Atlantis. I don't know. I'm not quite set on where it is yet. Um, and then yeah, I'm a big like anime, manga. I play a lot of. I don't have much time for video games anymore, but I'm like I wish I could play more video games. And I'm just kind of generally curious in how things work. So yeah, like my wife always tells me like you like to do the things that are like the most difficult or most troublesome. And so yeah, that's kind of
You're
that's
a
me.
troublemaker. Do you play any role RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that?
Oh
How
yeah,
how how do you
I was a
on the
big
spectrum?
I played EverQuest. I don't know
Okay.
if anyone knew that, but I played EverQuest like back in high school, and it like I barely graduated. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that shows a little bit of like how hardcore I am.
Wow. Okay. That's great. All right. So hey, I'm going to start segueing into the professional questions, So I'm going to ask you a question here, just kind of, start getting us that direction. So what's your family background like, your upbringing, and most importantly is how did that shape who you are as a leader, as an executive today?
How long do we have?
Uh, as long as you need, man. Let's hear it.
Uh, Debbie, do you want to go first?
Sure. So my background is I'm Chinese. My dad was born in northern China. My mom was from Hong Kong. They met in high school, and then my mom moved to follow her brother to go to San Diego State. And my dad, their love story was he followed her too. So
Mm.
I do have an older brother. We were both born in LA, but we grew up with our grandparents living with us all our lives, and they didn't speak English. So I grew up speaking Cantonese at home. But if I look back on it, I think all the love and fun I had with a large family, aunts, uncles, cousins, really shaped a lot of who I am today and made me kind of like the people person that I am now. And
Mhm.
that's helped in my professional career.
That's great. Yeah, I'm originally from Hong Kong too, Debbie. And I have to say that being an immigrant and coming here from Hong Kong, there was definitely some it was definitely an interesting experience, and I brought, there's my parents didn't speak any English, so at home we spoke Cantonese, and yeah, it was a really I have to say is that a lot of times when you're either immigrant, even a first generation, right? You have to really balance the heritage with the new culture and all of that. And it definitely I can see that you found a successful formula in terms professionally how you balance that. John, let's hear about you.
Yeah, so ethnically, I'm Chinese. We're from Fujian. Um, but my grandfather and his family immigrated to Cambodia. From what I hear, Fujian people are like very entrepreneurial. So, and I think that's kind of the common story for a lot of Fujian people. Uh, so we're from Cambodia. We came here as refugees during the war. So I wasn't born in Cambodia. I was born here in the States. But that's another story. Like the story of the family is just ridiculous. I grew up with three siblings, but later on I found out I have like six more siblings from the other side of my family. So it's a very complicated story. Like there's just a lot of stories to tell, and I can go on for. That's why I said, how long do we have? Um, but I would say maybe the part that shaped me the most is I grew up very blue collar. Um, I grew up broke, like broke, like didn't have soap, like toilet paper was like from a restaurant that my mom found. Um, it was we the only part that we had was we lived in Irvine, which was amazing, and we had food to eat. But pretty much other than that, like all of us kids were kind of on our own. Um, so it taught me at a really early age. Like I've been working probably since I was 13. I got my worker's permit when I was 13. And since then, been pretty much paying for it all. so, so yeah, I think that's just been a part of who I am as a, just extremely independent and, just really having to work and grind, to get what you want.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that, John, but not at that extent. I've also had a friend that kind of share your experience. I'm sure most people probably seen the movie Killing Fields, right? That movie is definitely something I'm sure, John, you can relate to, right? I mean, it's such a powerful film, and it kind of shows the hardship, some of the Asian American communities have to experience, coming here in America, the fortunate ones, right?
Yeah.
And John, I can relate to this from the standpoint of, you're coming here, your parents don't speak the language, right? You grow up pretty quickly in that environment, right?
Yeah,
Right?
you're definitely forced to. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and it can go on for probably hours, about the life story. But yeah, my last name is Chan.
Hmm.
Um, but when people get brought over as refugees, like the U.S. like at
Yeah,
customs, whatever, they're like just changing names, right? So, so half my family came in as Ken, and half the family came in as Chan.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and look, I think that that situation, we have to grow up fast, and I think it does. I mean, John, probably shape who you are today as a professional. And I look at it, the resilience you have to have, every day facing the are you going to get food. Right. I mean, that kind of experience, kind of dwarfs what you have to do, getting out a CRM campaign. You know, yeah. So you definitely have a head start on everyone. So awesome. So now let's really dive into these professional questions. Okay. Um, so and this is to both of you, of course, is what's the best career decision you've ever made?
I can go. I don't know if it's the best, but it's something I consider the bravest thing that I've done. And it was actually leaving CRM. So, as I mentioned, I helped kind of lead that area. I know. John's like, why did you leave? But I mean, Salesforce.com was hot, right? I could have gotten a job anywhere easily, just having that global implementation experience under my belt. But I chose to make a change and to do some work I was passionate about around like user and customer experience. And I think that was a great decision for me personally. But just to add to that, I think one of the things I really love about Experian is that the opportunities it has here. So I was able to change to a completely different role, but I didn't have to leave Experian to do that. So um, that's kind of, I think, one of the best decisions I've made.
Well, we're glad we made that decision
I
because
know.
you never left the family. You just kind of moved to a different house on the block. So
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. John?
Yeah, probably back to my more of a yeah the family side. So once we kind of got ourselves out of like money problems, um, we opened up a Subway sandwich shop, down in Newport Beach. If you're familiar with the peninsula, it was off of 28th and Newport.
Mm.
Um, so I think I was working like two or three jobs at the time, and running this family sandwich shop was one of them. And then my mom asked me a question. She said, like, this could be yours and more, right? Like, we can open up more sandwich shops. And I was like, no, I don't want any more sandwich shops. If I have to see one more Subway sandwich in my life, I'm gonna jump off the roof. Which I think, it's good work. So thankfully, we gave it to my brother, so he has all of that. Um, but I would say that's probably the best career move I made.
Hmm.
And then, yeah,
Yeah, you know what? That's a sort of a common story among Asian Americans is because I know that when my parents came to this country, a lot of Asian parents came to this country that don't speak the language. Their only path, right, career path is either work in a restaurant, open up a restaurant, which my parents did, And but it was funny because my dad never allowed me to step foot into the Chinese restaurant unless I'm eating there, because he told me that he didn't come all this way to see me stir fry. So he wanted me to get my college education and really make something of myself. Not that hey, you know what, I don't want to belittle any of the chefs that are that's a noble profession, but that's something that it's very common, and good. So when you guys are mentioning your professional, your educational background, I've noticed that both of you've had technical degrees, right, from college. So one of the questions that I always hear is that can you succeed in technology without having a technical degree? What's your thought on that?
Maybe I can go first, and I think Debbie's probably closer to, like, I would say, the tech side of the house. I'm more business aligned. But some of the best developers I know, one of them barely graduated high school, and is completely self-taught. Um, and the other one I know is a sociology major. Um, so my view is no, but I think there's a certain amount of grit that you need to have in terms of being up to speed and just being naturally curious on tinkering around. Um, so that's my experience. But Debbie, what about you?
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I think you don't have to have one, but it does help depending on what role you want to go into. But I mentioned earlier, I studied engineering and then I went right into consulting with PricewaterhouseCoopers. And in the old days, they used to throw us all new hires into this summer program where we had a mix of technical and non technical. But one of my friends that I made through that program was a psychology major, and we both became CRM developers. So that was a shock to
Yeah.
me. College was hard, so I was surprised. Like, I didn't need that engineering degree to get into tech, but obviously I don't regret anything about that. There's stuff that I think made me who I am. An example is my freshman year. I was in one of my first computer science classes, and there was like 100 people in there. But I was one of only 10 girls, maybe.
Mm.
And I think that motivated me, and kind of, getting my engineering degree was a proud moment in my history. But I don't think you have to have one to succeed in tech.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you. Yeah, John, go ahead.
Yeah, just to back Debbie up there. I mean, I didn't grad, so I started undergrad with a comp sci, and then I figured out, like, I'm a terrible engineer. I was like, it would take me like hundreds of lines of code longer than the guy next to me would do it in 10. And so I'm actually and I switched to social psychology, and I was a military science major, and then I finished with business and marketing. So so yeah, I'm in tech, but definitely didn't finish that way.
Yeah, just along the same lines too. I can sit and code, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I had to find my passion through that. So I love the business side too. And that's actually helped me also in my professional career, because even though I have that tech background, I don't code every day anymore. I just kind of work on that business aspect.
Hmm.
Right. Exact same situation here.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. My background's in economics, and what I'm beginning to discover is that it seems like and this applies not only for Asian Americans. I think professionals that are in technology, once they start sort of making a decision that they want to pursue the management track within technology, it seems like the successful formula, the common denominator there is a good blending of the technical and the business skills. And I feel that that balance is critical when you're looking at advancing specifically on the management track. So yeah, I think that definitely rings true. I think across the board there. That's great. So let's kind of say that you have the opportunity right now to jump on that DeLorean with Michael J. Fox and travel back in time. And so, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I can go first on this one. Mine would be brave.
Mm,
I think I was way too timid and kind of waited for things to happen to me when I was younger. And I would say I wish I kind of spoke up and stepped up more. I think through maturing through my professional career, I've learned to do that, but I wish I started earlier.
For me, I think I wish I spent more time in my academics. I think, Jimmy, you said something interesting, which is I had to grow up fast. I grew up really fast, really early, and honestly, I didn't really get to be a kid.
yeah.
Um, but when I look back, one, we couldn't afford like SAT prep classes, like we didn't get that. So, one of the things I did is like when I took the SAT, I showed up. Like I think I rollerbladed or something there by myself, and then I showed up and I found out I forgot my calculator. So, I think I did okay enough, but I went to Cal State Fullerton, great school, but I think for myself is like, man, I feel like if I focused more on my academics, I could have achieved more in my career and just more in life. Not just I'm like it's not I'm not a slouch now. I'm not complaining. Um, but I know, like for myself, I find myself being a pretty academic person, and I'm just naturally curious, and I wish I pulled out more of that in earlier in my life.
Mhm. Well, hey, you could finish off your career with academics. I could see you going back for your PhD, John, Dr.
Oh,
John.
man, I can't even think about going back to school again.
Yeah.
No, no way.
Well, hey, you know what, Debbie? Something you said that's kind of resonated with me because I hear this a lot, and this is especially I think for Asian American female professionals,
Yeah.
and sometimes it could be frustration too, is because a lot of the feedback they get from their manager is that, hey, you're not assertive enough, you're not this enough, right? And sometimes even like, you know what, you Asians are a little passive, and all that. Do you feel that there's some truth in terms of just our upbringing? Is there, what do you think about that?
I don't think so. I think it's personality, right? No matter what race we are, you're going to get different types of personality in anything. So, I would say like again, be brave. Don't hide behind, well, I'm Asian, they're expecting me to be timid. Like be yourself is what I would tell people.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that that's one of those things. I know Q has spoken quite a bit about that.
Yeah.
In her professional career, they're just always frustrated, or where they always view her as not being assertive or anything like that. It's just I have to say sometimes they tend to discount Asian American professionals, and they and because of for assertiveness. So yeah, so definitely something to think of. All right, well, good. So I know this probably doesn't happen to you guys a lot, but can you think of a time where you might have messed up? Where you failed, you felt kind of you failed, and how did you bounce back? Because I know both of you guys are super resilient. So just like to hear a little bit of that.
Um, should I go first or Debbie? You want to go?
Yeah.
Man, I failed a lot. So this was a tough one because I can tell you stories. But I think probably the biggest one that stood out to me was really early in my career. I think I was like 20 years old. It was ridiculous. They shouldn't have been giving me this responsibility. Um, but I was at a company called Commerce 5, and we were managing this online store for this company. And periodically you go through these redesigns, and so we had to like relaunch the entire store. And what was happening was there was delays, and I told my client at the time, I said, hey, we're not going to launch on time, like we're going to be down. And he called me from his hotel room in Hawaii. He was on vacation, and he said, John, I am literally going to lose my job like in an hour if you do not launch this site right now. Like we've been delayed, and like it is game over right now. And I think I was 20 or 21 at the time. And it was for PGP. It was, PGP, the pretty good privacy,
Yeah.
the encryption company. And I was managing their online store, and I had no business doing that. Um, but I pretty much broke into a panic attack. And this was my very first panic attack. I couldn't breathe and all that stuff that comes with that. Um, and we launched. I was like touching code that I shouldn't have been touching, and we launched on time, and we broke all the processes to do it. But what it taught me is like, you just cannot sit on things. If there's something that doesn't pass the spidey sense or sniff test, like from a project management perspective, you can't sit on it. You have to be all over it, and you just have to be really diligent, right? You have to take accountability for not only yourself, but you have to keep everyone in line too. And that's something that didn't happen. And man, I'll never forget that lesson. So that's how I bounced back, and I won't let it happen again.
That's great.
Yeah, and for me, I think this is a really good question, because I've messed up a lot of times. But I can't think of like one big scenario that I'd probably want to call out. But your question around bouncing back, for me, every time I make a mistake, I think the best way to bounce back is to own it, right?
Mhm.
Don't try to hide it, own it, and then for me, I'm very action oriented. So the first thing I'll do is take that action to fix it right away. I don't let it sit and simmer. So it's just being proactive is how you bounce back.
Yeah. I think that resiliency, that bounce back is something that, you kind of have to learn, and you got to have certain sort of character. I think that's where sort of the upbringing can help too.
Mhm.
I mean,
Definitely.
I think we probably, seen a lot of, I've definitely seen it in my family where, my father had experienced some failures in his life, and he always bounced back for us. So that always resonated with me, and yeah, I feel that's definitely a strong character that I got from my father. Well, good, that's great. Um, let's hear about how did you guys end up in Experian?
I can go first on this one. Well, I was on a snowboarding trip in Mammoth, and a friend of a friend actually mentioned they were starting Experian as a Siebel Analytics developer. And then
Mhm.
she mentioned there was a Siebel developer position open. So I was at a time of my point in my career where I was looking for a change. So I applied at Experian, and then the rest is history.
Okay, that's
Oh,
cool.
see, I know, I'm sorry, I'm a big storyteller, so I have long stories. So I'll try to keep it try to keep it quick.
Tell it plenty
It
of
was
time.
like the longest recruiting process. So when started 6 years ago, I swear, like we were dating for like 6 months. It was a brand new leadership team, brand new team. Like the CRM team was like 3 people. Back in the day on the D2C side, it took us 1 month to send one single campaign. That's how new we were. So it was a really long courting process. It took us 6 months just to get me in. I'm pretty sure I was like third choice because it took so long. Um, but I think the most important one is when I came back this last round. Um, so I reported to Daisy, but it was kind of interesting. Daisy and Jeff were, I think Jeff was just a VP at the he just made VP at the time, and Daisy was a director or a senior director. So um, when 6 years ago, and so when they brought me back, or when they asked me like, hey, would you be interested? And I was kind of looking to, it was like, hey, let's get back and finish what you started 6 years ago. Like we had a mission, we had a ton of growth for transforming this business. Now's the time to get back in here, and that I'm really happy to be back. Like it was just like, man, this could be home. And I always tell Daisy and Jeff the story, but it was like the kids took over the house. So yeah.
Well, I have to say, because John, you and I work quite a bit, right, professionally. I mean, on projects, I can tell that from your first tour of duty here at Experian, I think that you kind of knew that there was some unfinished business that you wanted to do. I think your second tour, I mean, the ideas, the really the transformation. that you may hear and see with CRM has just been amazing. And I just think that we are definitely seeing the benefit of your comeback here.
Thanks,
So
Jimmy. That's
uh,
really nice of you to say. But
um,
not so much more work.
yeah, a lot of work, man, a lot of work. I'm not saying you're done. No, I'm just saying, so far, so good.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about because this is a talk about Asian Americans and Asian American professionals. So how has your identity as an Asian American impacted your professional growth in any way? You know, if so, or well, how?
John, you want to take this one first?
Um, yeah, sure. I think it's back to like how I was raised. I don't really look at it as an identity thing. I think it's really just about that grit. Like I just have to, you have to fight for the things you want. And it's not a fight's maybe probably an overly strong word, but you have to be really intentional. Um, I haven't let like my identity as an Asian American sort of get in the way of that. I, I, I I know some people do, and I know everyone's circumstance is different, right? But at least for me personally, um, it's more about the intention of focusing your energy where it needs to be versus sort of my identity as an individual. Um, I don't know. That wasn't really elaborate, but Debbie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've let it affect my career, but I mean, in general, I don't think there's been a negative impact, right? So for me personally, I don't judge people by their race, and I hope they don't judge me, but we all know, it obviously happens. But in terms of kind of positive impact, I think, I've met and made relationships even just through this Asian American ERG, right? So if I hadn't got involved and met some of these people, just like this, I wouldn't even probably be on this webinar today. So I think there's ways that there's been positive impact, but I don't think it's slowed me down or obstructed my professional growth at all. If anything, it's helped.
You know,
I would agree with Debbie. If anything, it's helped,
okay.
uh, and it's been help. It's in a way to help like bridge gaps between different relationships, business relationships, and businesses.
Yep.
Mhm. Well, I have to say, your experience has been kind of the exception, you know, unfortunately. And you're seeing this across the enterprise, not just unique to Experian. What we see in Experian is we see Asian Americans, let's just say, get through the door. There's no problem in terms of Asian Americans, being hired by Experian, and you see this across the board in any a large enterprise. And but there is something, when you start digging into the statistics, there's something going on. Is that, and you hear this effect sometimes called as the bamboo ceiling effect, is that you see Asian American professionals entering, with great participation rates into companies, but somehow they get stuck. They can't bust through that to the executive ranks. Like I said, yourselves are an exception. Myself, Daisy, and it's what are your secrets? What do you think that you've done or you're doing allow you to bust through that ceiling?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's kind of some of my answers before, like be brave, things of like, don't be afraid to be yourself, right? Again, don't judge others, even if they're judging you. But, I really think if we all treated everyone equally, we wouldn't even have this ceiling to bust through. So, we need to be the ones to kind of be that change that we need to see. So I would say, don't hold back.
Hmm.
It's kind of where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Yeah, I am in agreement with Debbie. I think it has to do with a lot with my previous answers. I think there's an aspect though of like, and it's just Asian culture in general. Like at least the way I grew up, and I can't speak for the current upcoming generations, but it's like put your head down, be quiet, do good work, get straight A's, and like be a doctor and engineer, like right. So,
It's true.
and I would say like for some of the engineers on teams that I've been a part of, it is that like I went to school, got a good technical degree. I'm putting my head down, getting good work, but I don't know why I'm not getting promoted, right? Or and I think it's actually a little bit of that intention, right? Which is saying, you know, building relationships with individuals to understand more of the business side, as an example, right? I think that has been a huge part. As someone who started in the technical side of the house and is now more aligned on the business side of the house, it's being intentional about that requires you to get out of your comfort zone. It requires to be more of a front of the classroom kind of person versus the back of the classroom kind of person. So getting out of your own way from a cultural perspective that we've all been taught is a recipe for success. um, and the reality is this is where we live, and this is where you decide to work, and so you have to be really intentional around that.
That's something that John, I definitely agree with you, because I look at my experience growing up here in America, and I could see a lot. I mean, this is a common theme. What Asian American families, right? What's the one thing they hold the most important is academic success, right? I mean, you look at it as like from day one. I mean, I talk about not having a childhood growing up in Hong Kong. You got to prep for your kindergarten entry exam, right? I mean, it's like you're taught that you excel academically, right? And that's something that you control as an individual. You excel academically, you're gonna automatically enjoy future career success, right? And it's true to some extent, right? But I've never heard any Asian American parent ever says, you know what, I want you to be the captain of the football team.
Right.
I've never heard, our captain of the basketball team,
That
right?
doesn't make money, Jimmy.
Well, yeah, that's what they think. That's what they think, But there's a lot to be said about, really valuing sort of that EQ, that team leadership, those skills versus the pure hardcore academic, technical skills. And I think that might be a theme there, in terms of why, because you look at when you start hitting those higher levels of VP, SVP, CTO, you're really evaluated more on your EQ, right? The ability to inspire others, right? To collaborate and so forth. I think those skills are an area that we just don't value in the Asian culture too much, yeah, I think that's a theme. And I mean, we've been talking about EQ and Asian American ERG for years now, and I think we're getting better. I think people are realizing it, more. But I think that's an area I feel that we can do better. Well,
Yeah,
great.
just
Yeah.
to add up to that, Jimmy, I was going to say, I think for me too, being a mom now, I think that has been a topic in my mind, is because growing up, like I could never get a B, right? Everything was academics and education. And now with my kids, yes, I'm pushing them to get straight A's, but also I'm pushing them to do sports, doing clubs, join ASB, because I do know how important that is, right? Just getting good grades is not going to mean you succeed. It's actually building relationships, learning how to collaborate with people. And I think that's just as important. And growing up, that was definitely not the case for me. Like I was not allowed to go to school dances and stuff like that because I didn't study enough, and where now my daughter doesn't even want to go to winter formal. I'm like, you should go, so it's really different how we raise our kids now too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Forgot like childhood baggage, man.
Yeah. Well, great. Let's see if we can take a couple of the questions now from the audience out there. So one that we got early, actually before even we started the panel discussion, is that what advice do you have for Asian American professional just starting out on their career?
John, you want to go or you want me?
I think I'm actually going to repeat Debbie's advice is like, don't be quiet.
Mm.
You know, and from my own advice, it's, you better work hard.
Yeah.
This isn't easy, right? It's not easy at all. And one of the things I probably heard from a friend of mine who's kind of wandering the desert is I told him my life story. And his response back to me was really disappointing. It was, I don't think I can do that. You're the only person I think can do that. And I was like, oh man, like you're in a world of hurt. You got to be really intentional about it. You can't, it's not going to be given to you.
Yeah, and same thing. You figure out what you want, and if that's something you want to do is like to get into management or a leadership role, fight for what you want. I mentioned earlier, I wish I spoke up more, is because I had wanted to move into a manager role earlier, but I didn't tell anyone, and I just expected it would happen to me, and it didn't. I had to take that first step. And I would say, let your manager know, let your peers know, talk about it, because there may not be an opportunity now, but one will arise. And the more people that know that's where you want to go, you never know, that opportunity is going to come up and you'll have that chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. To add just one more thought to what Debbie mentioned is, you got to find a gap and fill it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you gotta like not only make your intentions known, but I think you have to live and breathe it, right? Like you gotta you gotta embody what you say you want to become, right? And if anyone knows my philosophy around management and stuff is you kind of do it and then you get it, right? Like you get the reward once you've proven that you have the chops for it. And to Debbie's note, you got to do it.
Yeah. And look, I think, right, don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
You hear this almost like a cliche, fail fast. That's not only in technology, it's in life. Fail fast, but learn from it. Yeah. You don't want to just consistently fail and not learn from it. Then you're a failure. But if you learn from it, that's someone that's definitely a high performer. You get this question a lot too, is especially someone that's just breaking out in their career, is that, does getting an advanced degree, and we're getting this from the audience too, is that does getting an advanced degree help you advance professionally? What do you guys think about that?
I think just like a technical degree, it helps, but it's not mandatory. So, when I was younger, I said, I'm going to get an engineering degree. I'm going to get my MBA. I'm going to be like a superstar CEO woman, right? But when I went through college, college was hard and I was burnt out. After 4 years, I'm like, no more school. I can't do this anymore. And I jumped right into my career. But if that's something you want to do, something like, pursuing an MBA, I say go for it. Don't hold back because you're scared or worried, because it does help. I think I was able to get where I was without it, but with it, it would have also helped.
I think it depends on what you want in your career 5-10 years out from here now too, right? So for me, my story is I actually got my first corporate job while I was in college. I was 2 years into college. And I didn't graduate until it took me 6 years to graduate. So I moved to 2 different companies without a degree, full-time student, full-time work. And I would say in my current career track, probably not. But it depends on like what you want. Like I have a lot of I can't even pronounce it. I had a lot of entrepreneur friends. And for them, they go out and get investment into their businesses. And those firms in Silicon Valley really like to see that pedigree, right? And so if you see yourself saying, hey, I'm at Experian today, but where I really want to be is like starting my own business, and I need to go out and get funding. Some people like to see pedigree, and it just depends on what you're aiming for. And we're not necessarily that kind of business, but there are businesses that are like that. IBM, very much like that, right? At its highest levels, it's private Ivy League level. But it just depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree with you both. I don't think that it's a requirement to gain professional success. You know, and one of the things I think what you don't want to think of is, look, you know what, I'm checking that box, right? I got my MBA, I got my master's. You know, that automatically it's gonna create success for me. I think where look, I'm not discouraging an advanced degree because I hold a master's in economics. I feel that what it buys you, what you gain from that is a lot less of the paper. But to get that advanced degree, you have to go through, let's say you got to write a thesis, you have to go through a master's project. That process is very similar to what we have to do when we execute on a project, right? Now you're getting feedback, both positive and negative from your thesis chair, right? I think that having that experience, because when you're starting out in your career, you just get out of school, is that you don't have a lot of experience, right? You don't have a lot of professional experience, but that advanced degrees exposes you to some of the situations, that you would encounter in a professional environment, and that can give you a leg up. But I would definitely don't treat the degree as a ticket to success. It's actually what you've learned to acquire that degree. That, and the discipline and all of that, the key learnings, and that's what's going to advance your career.
Yeah,
So
I agree to that, Jimmy. One more thing to add too is the relationships and networking you build as part of that. I didn't get my MBA, but I have friends that went through and have made lifelong friends with their MBA cohort, right? And that's probably helped them in their careers too. So that's another piece, just separate from the degree, is that relationship building too. That's important. And
yeah,
helpful.
very true, very true.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agreed.
Yeah. Well, good. We're coming to the end of this panel discussion. Any last minute question? I think we got enough time to answer at least one or two questions from the audience. Okay, Susan Pham has a question. Is where do you see your career going next?
Debbie.
This is a tough one. Once in a while when I'm down, I'll tell my husband, like, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But then other days, like, I love my job so much. So in my current role, I just moved under Joanna over the summer. So what I'm doing now is really exciting, and I have a passion for it. So I plan to like kind of stick this out, and I see me kind of growing in this role for now. But who knows what the future will bring.
Oh, is Daisy on this call? Just making sure. I don't know if she is. Yeah, no, like I said, we have so much to do here at ECS. I couldn't say, like, man, I don't even know how far. I can't look that far ahead. But I can tell you where I want to end up in like 20 years, which is like, I just want to run a restaurant and hang out with my friends.
But not as
right? I want to have fixed menu, small intimate setting, fixed menu, set amount of portions, and just right into the sunset. But in the meantime, we gotta get a bunch more memberships here into this business.
No sandwiches though, right, John?
No.
Okay.
No sandwiches.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you, both of you, I see, you guys have potential to be CEOs. And, one of the things that really amazes me is that, Debbie, you probably know this, is that Jennifer Schultz was a speaker way back for Women in Experian, right? And I think this was like when she made the speech about her career. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, right? And she knew exactly what she's going to be, CEO, right? And that dream was realized, last week. So, a lot to be said about, having that, aim your goals high, and do what it takes to get there, and don't discount yourself because of your education or your race or anything like that, right? I think that there is and having speakers like yourself it just gives everybody hope and a role model to aspire to.
Yeah,
So,
that was a really exciting announcement. So proud of Jennifer and so proud of Experian to, hire a North America CEO who is a woman. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, hey, thank you. Thank you for the great insight about you as leaders, and thank you for being candid about things. Hey, love your participation, your support for the Asian American ERG, and then hope to see you on the softball field, Debbie. And John, I'm sure we're going to be on a conference call or two coming up. So great. Thanks, everyone. And I want to just thank Crystal and Anita and Annie. And there's a lot of folks that on the Asian American ERG that did a lot of hard work to support this panel discussion. So kudos to everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Data Talk podcast. We share new shows every week, and you can find the full catalog of previous episodes, including YouTube videos, on our Experian news blog. You can get access to the full catalog by going to experian.com/datatalk. And we always love hearing from our community, so if you have any comments or suggestions for future shows or guests you'd like to hear from, please let us know. You can leave a comment on iTunes, or you can reach out to us on Twitter @Experian Data Lab. You can also email me directly. My email is michael.delgado@experian.com. Take care, and we'll chat next week.